everybody. Welcome to the final episode of season 1 of the Big Sister podcast. We will be back soon, don't worry.
I can't believe we've done 12 episodes
12
already.
episodes. Thank you so much for all the love on all the episodes so far, and we will be back next week with
We're not going
season.
already.
We're not going anywhere, but we're doing it into seasons because we are going to be in a new place next season, because
very exciting.
For those of you that don't know, I'm moving house soon, so we're gonna set up the studio in my new house.
We're gonna have a permanent studio, so we don't have to put everything up and down every single time we record.
For those of you that don't know, this is not where my sofa normally lives, and
this is Grace's actual sofa.
This is the sofa I sit on and watch Netflix on every day. So we're gonna have a more proper setup next season. So I really hope you carry on watching and wait around for us for next Wednesday to see the new setup. But anyway, for those of you that are new here, my name is Grace, and this is my big sister Josie.
Hello. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about self-confidence and body image, and we thought, seeing as it's the last episode of the season, we would answer a lot of you guys' questions because you've sent through a lot.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of you guys wanted us to talk about this topic because
I guess it's what you talk about most on your social media.
Yeah, it's sort of the main topic of my socials anyway, so I feel like it definitely deserved its own podcast episode, even though we do talk about these things like in every episode, but I thought we should give it a dedicated one. But yeah, we're going to dive straight into questions from you guys because there was a lot of questions sent in on this topic, so let's have a look what you guys wanted to know. Just before we start answering the questions, we just wanted to mention that during today's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about eating, possibly restricting food, and also just body image and insecurities. So if any of those things trigger you, or you think it might not make you feel good to listen to this episode, then we don't mind if you skip this one, but hopefully you will stay and listen because I feel like this will be quite useful for a lot of you. But yeah, hope you enjoy, and let's look at the questions. Okay, the first question we got was, does loving your body get easier as you get older? I think for me, that is definitely true. I mean, I'm only 22, you're 10 years older, so what do you think? Has it got easier for you?
I think so, yeah, and obviously it's different for everyone, and as you get older, there are different things that you worry about, like wrinkles and things like that, but I think overall, as I get older, I just think about it less. It just occupies my brain less. Those kind of insecurities, like I just have other things that I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
I've got to go walk my dog, I don't have time.
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned over like the years that I've worried about my body or like struggled with confidence is that the times when I'm most insecure and most like picking myself apart are the times in my life where I'm less busy and have less going on. Like,
I think that's why lockdown was quite triggering for a lot of
people. I think lockdown's like the last time that I kind of majorly was like really picking myself apart and worrying about stuff. And yeah, it was because there's literally nothing else to do, so your brain goes to your body because it's attached to you, and like it's the thing you're seeing the most and then that you're thinking about. And same with like, I feel like when you're at school, you've got less life worries, or most people do, like because you go home to your parents if you live with them, and like they cook you dinner, like you've just got less worries, so your worries will turn to things about yourself, and especially in like a school environment where girls might be comparing each other, and I feel like
your bodies are changing a lot as well.
I feel like and in school, I feel like a lot of the conversations I had in school were all about looks, and it was all very much a pressure, and like watching all the teen TV series and movies, I feel like it was all very much all about looks. So obviously when you're that age, you're going to be focusing on it because you've not got all these other things going on in your life. But I think as I get older and older, and I've got all these different things going on, like paying my bills, you know, deciding where I want to live, like being in an adult relationship, all these things, it's like I don't have time to worry about my body. Like, and the main thing I worry about is like my health, in terms of like, as long as my body is healthy and can do all these things and do all the goals that I've set in place for my adult life, like, then I don't really care how it looks. I'm more just worried about like if I'm going to be healthy enough to do all the things I want to do in my life. And that's the main thing I'm worried about now as an adult, is like my health, and like making sure that when I'm older I'll be able to walk, and like making sure I'm like bending my body and like being able to do stuff I want to be doing. But I think how it looks is less important. And whenever I do have times where like I might not have as much work to do, or like if I'm just have like, sometimes if I have like time off, if it's a holiday or something, I do sometimes find myself picking things apart about myself, and then the minute I'm busy again and have stuff to do and like see my friends and have my time filled with stuff, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it is just like, yeah, when you grow older you will have new responsibilities and new worries, and those things will take over anything to do with looks.
And I always think of the quote that Taylor Swift says in the Miss Americana documentary, where she just says, when I start to notice myself doing that, I just say, now snap out of it and just don't think about, like, you can control your own thoughts if you notice them and start to think. It's when you actually when you aren't aware of what you're thinking, it's just happening.
Yeah.
But if you can actually take that step back, it's kind of like what you learn in yoga and meditation and stuff, to take a step back and actually observe what your thoughts are. That's how you can interrupt those thoughts before they start happening.
But yeah, I just think as you get older, you do tend to become less worried, and there's less kind of culture around it. And like, I feel like especially as you get even older, like in this society, women, I feel like once you turn like 30 or 40, you're just seen as like, you're not going to look good anymore. So I feel like people do stop caring.
So I'm probably on that cusp now, because I'm 31. I feel like I'm about to start thinking about other issues like wrinkles and things like that. I've noticed a few things. I've noticed a couple of grey hairs popping up here and there. So I feel like there's going to be a whole new range of things that I'm going to be worrying about in the future. But I'm going to just have to try and take some of those tools that I've learned from being younger and like getting older around my body and things like that, and apply that to aging and how that looks.
I always just think like it's such a privilege to grow old, and like a lot of these insecurities you can apply that, like thinking of like, say if you got older and you decided to have a baby, lots of people might become insecure of like how their body's changing and they might have stretch marks, but it's such a privilege to be able to get pregnant and have a baby. And it's the same with aging, and it's the same with a lot of things. Like I made a video at Christmas about how like what a privilege it is to be able to worry at Christmas about gaining weight because you've got so much food to eat, and like how lucky are we that that's an option, that we could gain weight at Christmas because of all this food we have. And like everything that happens that I'm like maybe insecure about or worried about, I'm like, well, how lucky am I that that's my main worry in my life.
But come back to me when you get your first grey hair, because you will have a freak out, but it's fine. I would have gone through it, and I can coach you through it.
I just feel like you're so lucky so many people die young, and like you're so lucky to be able to get to that age.
Come back to me when you get your first grey hair, Grace.
I feel like my mindset's good enough that that wouldn't worry me.
Well, let me know and we can talk about it.
I might still dye my hair though, but I won't be all too worried.
Currently, I've only had a few, so I just plucked them out, but it's actually quite bad to do that, so I need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because then I have no hair left.
Okay, someone said, do current beauty standards affect you, and how do you become more confident? I think beauty standards are something that have affected me my whole life when I was growing up. But I think now I've realised that, especially on TikTok with all these like little trends of like, there's all these things of like tiny things that people are made to be insecure about. These like new beauty standards of like, you can't have strawberry legs. Have you seen that? Where like when you shave your legs and you have like the little dots on your legs, and it's like, that is literally what a human is. Like, that is just what our bodies do when you shave your legs. And like, there's this whole thing of like how to remove strawberry legs. And I see so many videos about it, and I'm like, guys, like that's like making a video like how to remove your arm, but because your arm is there.
I think if I saw that when I was really young, because I remember being really insecure about shaving, because I think some of my friends started shaving before I did, and I didn't do it. And I remember
a big thing in
I would
school.
still wear like tights even in the summer, because I was embarrassed because I hadn't shaved my legs yet. So I feel like if I saw that video when I was that age, having that insecurity, I would fully believe it and be like, oh no, I need to figure out the strawberry legs.
Well, I remember being in year 3 and one girl in my class started shaving her arms.
Yeah,
because
I remember that.
A boy made fun of her, and yeah, I feel like
I had
some
a similar thing with one of my friends.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, there's so many things like that where like at school it's like one girl does something, or like one girl starts wearing mascara and then all the girls are like, we need to wear mascara, like, oh my god. And I feel like it's such a thing of like, yeah, you're all kind of like, one person starts doing it and then you all start feeling insecure.
But that's like what the internet is times 1,000 million.
Yeah, because one girl is insecure about her strawberry legs
Yeah.
and like fixes them or comes up with these solutions, and then everyone's like,
That video
oh my
goes
god,
viral,
are
and
my
then-
strawberry legs a
yeah.
problem? Like, but I just think I've realized just how silly those are, and the majority of these like insecurities, they're either made up by a brand to sell a product. Like, I'm pretty sure that girl I've seen doing her strawberry leg videos, that she's promoting like a scrub for your legs that's made by a brand.
Nice, doesn't it? Strawberry legs, like it's quite cute.
Yeah, it's quite cute having strawberry legs. What's the
Yeah,
problem?
I want strawberry legs.
And even like shaving, women didn't used to shave their legs up until like the early 1900s, and then Gillette decided they weren't selling enough men's razors and they were going to sell women's
yeah.
razors, and they made it this
women
whole
never used to get their legs out, so they didn't really need to shave
yeah,
them.
and then there was this whole ad campaign of like, shave your legs with Gillette, and then all the women then started to become insecure if they hadn't shaved their
Yeah.
legs, and that whole thing was created to sell razors. It was nothing to do with like what people found beautiful. But then now that's so normalized that men will might like have a bias of like, you should shave your legs, and it's like
I
so
feel
silly.
like it's a bit it's interesting now how I feel like there used to be a very clear, this is the current beauty standard and this is how things are, and I feel like now it's kind of confused because there's so many different avenues and the internet just has, as you were saying, so many different micro trends and things, and it's just like, what even is the beauty standard anymore? Does anyone even know?
I know, because I
Is
feel
it
like
Ozempic?
well, I feel like, yeah, back in the day, like the movie stars of that period or like the famous celebrities would be like the beauty standard, and like in the early 2000s, I feel like it was all the blonde like actors and actresses,
very skinny women.
yeah, and they were like the beauty standard, and like you were trying to aim towards that. Whereas now I feel like, first of all, there is a lot more diversity in like the entertainment industry, which is so good, and it means we see so many different like types of people. But also, even those actors and actresses, even if they are like the beauty standard, I feel like they still get pulled apart for their looks now.
Yeah.
Because people will see like paparazzi pictures and be like, ew, like, then pick out all these things wrong with them. So now it's like, well, if they're not the beauty standard, like what is? Or it just like, is it just some AI picture of a girl? Like, because no one fits every single tick box that if you went on TikTok you would believe this is all these things we need to do, and like no one actually in real life ticks every one of those boxes.
And that's not to say, I mean, obviously the beauty standard is sort of skinny, you know, there are certain things you can say, generally considered to be white, which is really messed up. There's just a lot of things that is like, this is the standard, but at the same time, I don't think, like, I just remember for a time when it was Kim Kardashian and
that was like the 2010s,
big, what's the
like very curvy and everyone got a BBL.
BBL, like that was the standard, quote unquote, and then that changed really quickly to something else.
And then a lot of celebrities are like losing weight, but then some celebrities have lost too much weight, and then it becomes a thing of like, you look too like there's you can't win.
It's just very confusing. So I think my answer to the question is, I don't know what the beauty standard is, so I don't know.
I honestly think if you just really look at like the history and like the reasoning behind any of these beauty standards, you would realize it's just been made up to either, I mean, the patriarchy makes these things so that women are so worried about their strawberry legs, they're not worrying about politics or the things that are going on to actually like change women's rights in the world. So they give us loads of random things to worry about. Or it's a company that has made a product and wants to sell that product, so they're going to make up a fake insecurity. So once you realise that like those two things are behind pretty much every insecurity women can have, you really stop caring about those insecurities. And I also think if you're used to being online all the time and seeing all these beautiful influencers and celebrities, go out in the real world, because people in the street, like not everyone meets this beauty standard that you see online. And like I feel like it's so easy to scroll on TikTok and see like 100 beautiful girls in a row and be like, oh my god, everyone in this world is so pretty and I'm not. Whereas if you just go outside and like socialize with real people in real life, you'll realize that there's so many different faces you'll see, and everyone looks different, and they can all be seen as beautiful, but all these different things that you might not see online, especially if your algorithm is showing you like a certain type of content. I feel like you don't realize that in real life, like not everyone looks as, and like looking beautiful shouldn't be the main goal, and like a lot of people don't care at all about how they look, and we should be celebrating people for all these other things that could be happening in their lives, or like achievements that they've done. And yeah, I think just realizing that it's all just kind of like made up. Okay, let's look for another question. Someone said, Josie specifically, you've been called out. Have you ever struggled with body image or food? Because I feel like I've talked about kind of my experiences on my socials quite a lot. But yeah, have you ever had
I've definitely had, well, it's hard to say like what is issues, because I feel like every girl of a certain age when they're younger always has some kind of issue.
I feel like it's a weird thing where it's like, almost everyone I know probably has had issues, and it's like what do you count it as like an eating disorder, because probably everyone's had like disordered eating. And there's like but I mean, it doesn't really matter how you categorize it.
So I want to talk about the 2015 2014 vegan YouTuber era.
Right, yeah, I know what you mean. For those of you that don't know what that means, please
I want to talk about a certain woman called Freddie the Banana Girl. Who told lots of impressionable young girls to
eat watermelon,
basically 20 bananas a day, and
watermelon
and pineapple, and to not eat any cooked food before 4,
and not eat any carbs.
And no, it was carbs. That was her whole thing.
Was it?
Yeah, like fruit is carbs. I don't even remember.
But yeah, this era was like, so she was this raw vegan influencer who would post YouTube videos, and it was like, it kind of went tied in with the whole 2014 Tumblr era of like California girl, like beach girl, healthy like living,
vegan, hippie,
and those things were fine. But then when she made these videos about eating, it was like, okay, that's not fine.
Basically anyone who is online telling other people how they should eat when you don't know what your followers, what their health situation is, what their vitamin levels of their body is, like, unless you're going to go around doing a blood test of every single person who is subscribed to you, and you're a registered dietitian and nutritionist, you should not be giving anyone any diet tips and telling them what to eat.
So basically Freddie was this girl.
There was so many people on the internet in 2015 doing that,
and
I definitely got sucked in, and I definitely ate a whole pineapple.
I remember you eating like lots of watermelon.
Really hurt my mouth.
Pineapple does hurt your mouth. She basically was saying that like everyone had to eat fruit all the time, and like if you wanted to lose weight you had to be a raw vegan, which is like a vegan who doesn't even eat cooked foods.
And I do feel a bit bad about this now, because you were growing up with me being this crazy person like eating pineapples all the time. Like that can't have been healthy.
I remember you posting a picture of like half a watermelon when you like eat it just like from the watermelon, and you made this like hummus salad bowl, and I remember you posted it on Instagram, and it was like a video of you watching Freely, I'm pretty sure, and that was the picture, was like your meal inspired by her. But yeah, I think you used to follow like, so there was so many of these different people. Freely was like the head of the community, and then there was all of these different people, and like I remember you sat at the table like telling me how you wanted to like move to the beach and like be eating all this fruit all the time, and it was probably like winter in the UK, like you were eating this watermelon that was like
the fruit was imported from overseas.
Which is not really the same energy as like Freely the banana girl would like grow it all herself.
Anyway, I feel like definitely there was something going on there, and then I became vegan for about 5 years, and I moved to London, and I just feel like, I don't know if maybe there were just less accounts like yours, like body positivity accounts, but it was just very normal to count your calories, think about what you're eating. And I think when I went vegan, in my head I was thinking, oh, this is great, now I can eat whatever I want, but it was still kind of restricting, but in a different way. I know that you're vegan now, and I feel like you do it in a very, like, it's not about restricting, but I wonder if maybe, even if subconsciously I was doing it to be quote unquote healthy, which would make me lose weight or whatever, but I don't know, it's hard to say.
That is one thing I wanted to mention. I am vegan and plant-based, and I have been for like 7 years or something.
Do you ever feel like you did it in a restrictive way, or the
I
reasoning
don't-
behind it
I-
was ever for a restrictive reason?
I generally don't think I was doing it for like health reasons. The main reason I went vegan was because you made me watch Cowspiracy on Netflix.
I've actually converted quite a lot of my friends to
Josie
being
was
vegan.
like a crazy vegan back then.
By the way, I'm not vegan anymore,
Yeah.
but I feel like the fact that I've converted several other people to being vegan has kind of balanced out the moral good of the universe.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that could be a whole episode. We talk about being vegan. But yeah, so I went vegan because of like moral reasons, because I watched that documentary and I felt really bad for the cows. And like, I'm the sort of person who like, if something is happening and I feel bad about it, I will like cannot stop thinking about it. Like if I see an old man at a restaurant eating on his own, I will want to cry and I will think about it for like 2 weeks.
Aww.
And think like I should have gone up to him and like I literally feel so, I think I just have a very empathetic person, and like I can't help feeling everyone else's feelings, and like if someone's in a bad place or like I'm feeling bad for someone, I just can't shake that feeling. And when I watched that documentary, I just could not stop thinking about the animals, and like even now like I just can't shake that feeling of like I don't want to hurt these little creatures.
Well, for me it was partly environmental as well.
Yeah,
so
I think that is
I still fully agree that eating animals is terrible for the environment and we shouldn't really be doing it, but at the same time, for me personally, for various health reasons, like being vegan is not the ideal thing for me.
Yeah.
So it's just really about completely your own personal thing.
Yeah, and I would like to say like I'm vegan, but I'm vegan for those reasons. I'm not vegan in any restrictive way, and I eat literally whatever I want. Like
Grace has the best snack cupboard in the whole world.
Yeah, like I am not restricting in any parts of my life at the moment. Like I feel like in the UK especially, there's so much good vegan like fast food and like food at restaurants. Like I promise you guys, I'm eating lots of food all the time, so do not worry about me. And I think there is something to be said about some people go vegan or vegetarian or there's so many different things you can restrict, gluten-free, dairy-free, whatever. A lot of people do it in a restrictive way, or they might not even realize they're doing it for those reasons, but like subconsciously they're doing it because in the back of their head they're like, well, I'm gonna eat less.
Yeah, I don't think when I went vegan I ever thought, oh, I'm gonna do it to restrict and to eat less. But I think maybe subconsciously that's what I was doing. I just didn't know enough about it. I wasn't educated enough about it. I was so young at that point. It's like,
I think there's so many accounts that, I mean, there's a whole topic to be talked about, is like recovery accounts and like people that post when they're like going through an eating disorder and are in hospital. But there are a lot of people that I've seen that have those recovery accounts that then become vegan or vegetarian, and it's kind of like very obvious that the only reason they're doing that is because they will eat less. So I think you just have to make sure, if you do like agree with the ethical and the environmental reasons for being vegan or vegetarian or whatever it is, making sure that you're doing that in a non-restrictive way. And also, just if you have struggled with food before, or if you're like underweight or you've got health reasons, which means you need to be eating lots of vitamins and stuff, just making sure that if you do go vegan or vegetarian or whatever, you probably need to be eating more food than you were before, because vegan food, a lot of it is vegetables, and that's going to be less energy than eating a steak. So making sure you're eating enough portions and everything.
There are certain vitamins that you just cannot get in vegan food. So you have to get either fortified food,
taking
or
like vitamins,
taking supplements.
Yeah, or like
B12.
A lot of like non-dairy milks in the UK are like fortified, so they have all those vitamins added in. So like making sure you're drinking enough of that, or if you're not, then taking vitamins. I think just making sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and if being vegan or vegetarian or whatever it is causing you to not be eating enough, then you need to reevaluate and either make an effort to be eating more, or think about adding certain foods back in your diet. Obviously this does not apply if you're like allergic to certain foods or like celiac or anything, but just for people doing it like their own personal choice, I think you just have to be really careful, because there are so many accounts. Even now, I'm pretty sure Freely the Banana Girl still posts online, and she would like react to certain YouTubers' videos. Like I remember her making a video reacting to like Tanya Burr's cake recipe, and like Tanya Burr would be like pouring the eggs in the bowl, and Freely's like, ooh, the eggs, and like she's so dramatic about it. And like I think Freely's message of like animal cruelty message, that part of her
Yeah.
messaging is very correct.
Yeah,
But the way
yeah.
she was delivering that message just made everyone feel really guilty and bad about themselves.
Yeah,
And it was never going to help
on
people.
other people to try and get your message across, which isn't
It's
really,
not useful, yeah. So I think, yeah, that time was definitely an era.
It was a wild era of the internet.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I used to see you eating like the watermelon and be like, and that's the time I went vegan, but I feel like I've always been such like a foodie that I won't just eat fruit. I'm going to eat the chips as well. Like,
This was not a very long-lived phase, but
Yeah.
it was when I kind of finished uni, and I think I was living back with mum and dad for like a few months. And I think, again, it's like that thing you were saying, it's when you don't have much else to think about,
focus on,
or when
yeah.
you're not very happy with how your life's going. Because I wasn't really, sorry mum and dad if you're listening, but I wasn't really enjoying living back at home after being
At
free at
university,
uni for
yeah.
3 years. So it makes sense that maybe that was the time when I felt like, oh, maybe I should hook into this little new way of life and become obsessed with that, because I'm not really happy with how my life's going right now.
I think it is such a big thing, and so many people, the reason that they have eating issues or eating disorders is normally something to do with control or not knowing what you're doing in your life or feeling a bit lost, because some people might feel like if everything's going wrong in their life, or they don't know what they're doing with their life, or they've had something traumatic happen to them, they can't control any of those things. But one thing that is very easy to control is how you feel about yourself or what you're eating that day, and making a list of what everything you put in your mouth that day. And if you feel like you've got that under control, you might at first feel a bit better and feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing this to make my life better and it's going to make me lose weight and be happier and be healthier. But it almost always ends in a bad downward spiral. And yeah, I would just like to say, if anyone out there is like a young teenager, please just never download any apps for calorie counting, because I feel like that is where so many people start to have these bad experiences. And I honestly believe that no one needs to know how many calories they're eating, unless they're like an athlete like in the Olympics who needs to be a certain weight category for their sport, or like if you've got some serious health conditions where the doctor has told you should be counting your calories. I just don't think, especially teenagers, I just can't see a situation where that would be helpful or useful for anyone.
It automatically makes in your head the association of every time you eat something, that is a negative thing, because you're losing something, you have lost something. But the reality is you've actually gained nutrients and you've gained enjoyment.
I think those apps really tally foods down to just calories, when really it's like you see those posts where it's like an orange juice is 6 donuts worth of sugar, and it's like, well, no, yes, they might be the same amount of grams of sugar, but there's so many different vitamins in one thing compared to another, and it's the same with calories. Like,
and definitely go, I think I said this on another episode, there's an episode of the Maintenance Phase podcast on calories, and it was the most interesting thing I've ever heard. And it's just, you know, a lot of these things are just completely made up. The 2,000 calories a day thing for women, the 2,500 for men, made up. It makes no sense. There's no average human being body, so why do we have an average number? And why is it so suspiciously round, that number? Like, surely that doesn't make sense. It's like the 10,000 steps a day. Obviously that can't be the goal. It just happens to be a round number, and the human brain likes round numbers. So there's just so many little things that when you start to actually question everything,
well, it's the same as
it's like why are we even doing this?
It's the same as having insecurities about body parts. It's like, yeah, there's certain food things where it's like there might be a trend of like, I keep seeing on TikTok about like the carnivore diet, and like obviously that has become a trend, because before that it was a trend to maybe be vegan or to stop drinking milk, and then all those companies are like, oh no, we're not selling animal products anymore, let's make it a trend of the carnivore diet, and then everyone starts buying it again, and then it's just like a cycle of like all these food trends that are normally because some people in a marketing room in an office decided, yeah, we're going to make it a trend to do this product. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if like that feta pasta on TikTok was made up by some feta company.
That is really tasty though.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the feta pasta, but I just mean,
really want that now. You've just said.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna make pasta for dinner. But yeah, just when you realise, like, I don't know if it's because I studied business and marketing at uni. When you realise how many things in this world and like how many trends are all just made by like fabricated by people who want to sell something, is when you realise like, yeah, you don't need to be following all these trends. Okay, someone said, how do I feel confident next to someone that is skinnier than me? I think that's hard, and I mean, I feel like now I'm so confident that that wouldn't even cross my mind. But back when I was younger, I remember that being a thing. And I remember sitting in the PE changing rooms and we were all sat with our legs out, and then people started comparing like who's got a thigh gap, and also
I swear
if we'd
that happened
shaved
to
up,
me as well.
when we'd shaved,
We're
if
all
you'd-
living the same life.
yeah, if you'd shave your legs. And like I remember like walking after school, we used to go to this place in our local area and like hang out after school, and we were walking there and someone was like, Grace, you've got the biggest thigh gap out of all of us. And like that being just a normal conversation
That
to
is
have,
insane.
and like comparing.
We had this thing at our school in PE where they had these little like machines, and everyone, you had to go around and measure your fat on your body with this little clipper thing.
Well, it's like in primary school when you all get weighed.
I can't believe they did that.
Do you remember that?
And I remember in science class we got weighed and worked out our BMIs, and everyone worked out their BMIs. How is that allowed to be going on in schools? Like, that is insane.
Well, yeah, because I think in the UK it's like the government asks all primary schools to weigh all the children. I think that is actually.
I don't think that happened when I was at primary school. I think I might have missed that.
I was in primary school.
Happened in secondary
we
school.
all got put in a line and we all had to go to like the food tech room and like get weighed. And
was it in private? Or did
you
do
went
it
in the room in private, but then everyone was coming out saying what they'd got. And then I remember one of my friends, like she was like worried about what hers, and I remember that being like in my head, like, oh no, like if she's worried I should start worrying. And then it just becomes a thing of like,
but that's insane because kids are so different heights at that age.
Yeah.
Like our middle sister Daisy, I don't know if she want me to say this, but she's
much
the
taller
tallest
than us.
person in the
So you're
class,
gonna
like one
weigh
of the
more.
tallest people in the class. So there's just so many different things that
with any sort of body weight comparison, you just can't use that as like a health metric or like a vanity thing. Like it's like we're different heights, so we weigh different, but our bodies, I would say, maybe look quite similar, but then we would weigh completely different things, and like you just could never use that.
And like our mum, who's a lot shorter than us, would weigh less because she's shorter.
Like, for example, me with my back, I have like metal work in my back from the surgeries I had for my scoliosis. So that's going to make me weigh more. So if like at the GP or if back at school, they were working out my BMI, which is such a stupid thing, by the way, it might say I'm more overweight than someone who's the exact same measurements.
Metal in your back.
Yeah. And it's the same with like, I always think like if you have bigger boobs as a girl, that's going to affect your body weight, but that's not based on fat, that's based on genetics.
What if
normally
you've had a boob job as well? That can make it more.
And your hair, if you've got more hair, than like hair weighs an amount.
And if you've drunk a litre of water.
Yeah, there's just so many things that affect your actual like numerical weight.
If you've been sweating or not.
Yeah, if you've got shoes on when you measure yourself, you've got a big heavy coat on. Like there's so many things that changes your weight. Yeah,
really.
That it should never be used as like the be all and end all of like if you're healthy or not. That it shouldn't be your numbered weight, because it just can change for so many reasons. And I think if you're stood there comparing yourself to someone that's smaller than you, I just always think of it in terms of health now. I just think like there's no way to know. That person might be underweight. They might be restricting themselves. They might hate their body. I mean, me personally, I have been underweight when I was younger, and I didn't like how I looked then. Back then, I was trying to gain weight. I remember eating loads of cashews every night. My mum would buy me these big things of cashews because she was worried that I was underweight, and I would just eat loads of cashews every day to try and gain weight, because I was like, got no boobs, got no bum. And then now that I'm probably have more weight on me, I might start feeling insecure, and it's just like you can't win. So even if you're looking at someone and thinking, well, they look perfect, how could they be insecure? I promise you they probably have things they're insecure about. And getting to a certain weight or like looking like a certain person won't guarantee that you'll be happy with yourself. And the only thing you can guarantee is if you actually work on your brain, if you work on yourself and try and feel more confident in your brain, then you'll like your body no matter what your body looks like. And I think that's the most important thing, is that you can't hate yourself better, and you can't hate a body part better. Like you can't, if you're thinking like bad thoughts about a body part every day, or like something you don't like about yourself, the more you think about it, it's not going to change that body part. It's not going to change it, and it's not going to change how you feel about it.
That's what I learned that lesson when, and you can listen to the whole episode on skin and acne that we did. But there's been several times throughout my life where I've had really bad skin, and in those points, all I do is obsess about it. If you go look at my camera roll from the times when I've had bad skin, it's just constant selfies of my skin, like how bad is it today? But what I've realised is the more you stress about it, the worse it's going to get, because stress causes your skin to get worse.
Yeah. And
so,
you can't there's no way you can like hate something better.
No, and it just
the time you spent thinking about your skin wasn't making your skin better.
During those periods, I wasted so much time thinking about that, and yeah, I just can't get that time back now. And what could I have been doing like in those times? I could have been doing so much other stuff, fun stuff, but instead I was just sat at home looking at my skin, googling how I can fix it.
And I always think of like, if you die, and imagine you got a list of like stuff you'd spent your life doing. It might say you spent a whole year of your life criticizing your body or like thinking bad thoughts. When you die, would you be happy hearing that?
Yeah.
Or would you rather trade back in that 1 year and they say, here you go, have another year to live? Would you spend that year you get back still criticizing yourself? No, you would spend it doing all the stuff you love. Or like, even if they say you've got 5 minutes left to live, I wouldn't choose it to look in the mirror thinking, oh, my skin looks so bad today. I would go see all my family and friends, or like eat my favorite food, or travel somewhere. And I think when you realize that, like how much of your life you've been wasting criticizing yourself, and all those years has never made you feel any better, and it hasn't changed your appearance because you can't worry things better. That's when you realize like it's all just like made up in your head, and you should just start like living your real life. And again, what we said, that when you're more busy, you're gonna worry about these things less.
Yeah, just get out the house. If you're just sitting there worrying, honestly, just go outside. Just go to a shopping centre. Just look at everyone around you. Like you'll just realize that you're just in a society that is way bigger than yourself. There's so many other things out there that you could be worrying about that could be bad in your life, but they're not. Most likely.
It's like, in terms of like bodies, like whenever I go on holiday and like go to a swimming pool or like to the beach, and you actually see people's real life bodies in like their bikinis or whatever, you realize that all those like perfect models you see on Instagram, no one actually looks like that. Or like one person will.
They're the unusual ones.
Yeah, and
the
like
people that look like the models you see on Instagram.
And when you see those bodies in real life, like on a sun lounger or like on the beach, and you realize that yes, even if you have very low body weight, you're still gonna have little creases and curves and things on your body. Yeah, and I think just getting out of the house and seeing real people and realizing you are so much more than your appearance, and the average person doesn't look as good as these people on social media. Someone said, any tips on how to get over being scared to eat in front of other people? I feel like I definitely had this. I don't think it was necessarily even linked to like body image and stuff, but I used to hate eating in front of people at school.
But don't you have to do that every day?
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that?
Well, I feel like, so some girls at my school just wouldn't eat, which I think links back to the sort of culture we were growing up and comparing ourselves and stuff.
Yeah.
And I used to be so embarrassed to like pull out my lunchbox and eat. I think a lot of people I was friends with would get food from the canteen, and everyone was eating that. And then sometimes
a lot of judgment around what you would have. I remember I had hummus once, and it was before hummus was like a common thing, and everyone was like, oh, what's that? Why do you have that? Because it wasn't like the standard sandwich that everyone had.
Yeah, like when I just think back of like being in school, it's just there was so many weird things that people like would get made fun of or get like questioned about, or like if people had like food that people had never seen before, or like more healthy food or more unhealthy food, there was just so much like judgment around like the lunchbox and like what you were eating. And I remember just not wanting to eat in front of people. And even like in sixth form, when I was older, I remember like sometimes I'd go in the loo and like eat and then go and sit with my friends, because none of them would be eating. I don't know why. And I would want to eat, so I would go and eat, or like I'd eat it in my car and then go to school. I wouldn't.
It's so sad
want
because
to bring food with
eating
me.
can be such like a communal, fun experience.
Yeah.
But I think part of the problem is just school canteens are so disgusting.
Yeah, I think that's another thing.
Yeah.
That I would not want to eat if there's like all like gross crumbs on the table.
The ones
everything.
at my school was just so gross. People used to have food fights all the time. There'd be like mashed potato on the ceiling.
Oh, God.
Like, it would be so disgusting. So I think probably the school culture
It's
around
just weird,
eating
and
is
it used
quite
to be really
weird,
stinky in the canteens.
Yeah.
And also when I started doing food tech GCSE, and they taught us all about like food hygiene and stuff, that's something that's still worries me to this day. I feel like that
reheat a
that's
takeaway
really
the
stuck
next
with
day.
me, what I learned in my food tech GCSE, because then I started thinking like, well, this sandwich hasn't been in the fridge, it's been in my bag all day, and then I would get like freaked out and not want to eat it. And I feel like some of those things that I got taught in my food tech still live with me. Like, I will not reheat rice. I will never do that in my life.
It's fine if you just make sure it's hot enough.
If you do it safely, yeah. But I just get so freaked out that I'm gonna like.
Have you ever had rice food poisoning?
No. But I still remember this story of Mrs. Ho. That was my food tech teacher's name.
Can you say her name?
Yeah, I'm sure she won't be watching. If you are watching, Mrs. Ho, thank you very much. I'm very safe around food nowadays. But she told us this story of like, one time she went to school and like she just told us this very disgusting story of her getting food poisoning because of rice. And ever since then, I never wanted to reheat rice. So I feel like that was part of the reason as well, of like why I wasn't eating in front of other people. And I think definitely there can be this thing when you start going on dates. I feel like even my mum was like, you shouldn't eat spaghetti on a date. Like, there's this thing of like, you don't want to get your mouth messy on a date or like spill food on you, and there can be this weird thing.
I've just realised I think this is a British thing.
Maybe.
I think British people are very, like, they don't talk about sex and they don't talk about food.
Yeah.
They don't like to eat in front of people. They don't like to I've noticed no one ever has open-toed shoes. Obviously, it's quite cold, but like, I think there's just a very like British people are like, do not see me, do not look at me, I'm just not here, like, yeah. And I think I would only notice that since I've been living in Australia. Like, I don't think Australians are like this at all. They just love it.
They're a bit carefree, like they don't care. But yeah, I feel like there's lots of things where it's like, yeah, there's like a weird thing about food and eating in front of people. But I think now I'm a bit older, like, especially my close friends, like, I don't care. Like, we love food. I would be so excited, to eat food with my friends. But I think a thing about influencer events, we spoke about this on our influencer episode, but some of the events I go to, no one eats. And that's one thing that kind of scares me in this industry, especially with all this trend of Ozempic and people getting much smaller. I will go to like whole dinners with a brand, like a 3-course dinner, and I'm the only one that finishes my portion of anything, and like no one will eat anything, or like,
and it's just such a waste of food as well, on top
and
of
like
everything else.
These events, there'll be like canapes and just it will come over and I'll be with a group of people I don't really know. No one will want one, and then I'll feel like I shouldn't take one because everyone's going to be watching me eat it. Like, and
do you think people are scared about getting food in their teeth, or do you think it's just that they don't want to be seen to be eating?
Yeah, I think especially the influencer events, I feel like it can be, I mean, if you have that sort of mindset of like an eating disorder, it can be like competitive, and then people will think like, oh, they might think they're better than other people because they've not eaten the food. And there was one influencer event I went to though, and I was really hungry. I think I was like meant to go out for dinner and I didn't, so I was starving. And then they ordered in all these burgers, and no one was touching the vegan burgers because I guess not everyone was vegan at the event, but everyone was eating them. I think it was an event where people were drinking, so once they'd had a few drinks, you want to eat loads of food. Yeah. So everyone was eating these burgers, and there was like this stack of vegan burgers, and I was just I think I ate like
so good.
I think I ate like 3 because there wasn't like chips and stuff, so I was just eating the burger, and I was so hungry, and I had loads of these vegan chicken burgers, and then I took one home with me too because it was in the boxes, and it was like the best day ever. So that was a great event, and I wasn't scared to eat in front of anybody at that event. I think it just really depends on like who you're with and like the atmosphere of whatever situation you're in, because at school it's like I wouldn't have eaten that.
I would say, so I was just thinking back to like what advice would I give to someone if they were feeling nervous, and I would just say, if someone says something weird to you, make them feel weird.
Yeah, like if
point out how weird it is that they find it weird that you're eating.
Yeah,
because
like if someone's
is a human
judging you
thing,
or trying to make you feel bad, like that's more their problem.
Yeah.
Like it's a them problem.
So maybe just if you know that there's someone who would say something, or just have a response in your head.
Yeah, like I feel like
back.
At school there might have been certain girls who were like the head of the group who would be like, I'm not going to eat carbs. Like that, I feel like that was something that was definitely said in school around me. And you should just say like, why not? Like carbs give you energy. Like literally just
and you don't have to be in a combative way. You could just be like, why do you think that?
Carbs give you energy. Like what's the problem?
Where did you learn that? Like
why are you trying to make me feel bad about what I'm eating? Like we all need food to eat. Yeah, I think that can be a thing. you just gave me a flashback of one time when Sims 4 came out. Do you remember Sims 4? I mean, is that still the most recent edition of Sims? Because there's no Sims 5.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I remember having Sims 4 at this party, and we were all like making each other's avatars.
Because you can change the size of the body parts.
I remember making mine, and then this girl went, Grace, your boobs need to be smaller on the avatar.
Oh, because you were making yourself.
Yeah, and she said it in front of everyone, and I was like,
oh my God, that's so rude.
And then everyone was like saying like, oh, your hips need to actually be bigger on the Sims to be accurate. Like everyone was like...
So there's no other time that I can think of where everyone suddenly would have an excuse to suddenly stop pointing out everyone's body.
It's like the nightmare situation.
That is insane.
Yeah, and I remember like being like, oh my God, I can't... And it was like one of my close friends, and I was like, I can't believe you said that in front of everyone.
Yeah,
like you've embarrassed me in front of everyone.
Do you think the person who said that would be listening to this episode now?
I don't know.
Or would remember saying it?
But I don't. I'm not gonna hold that against anyone. Like obviously she was probably insecure about the size of her own boobs at that time, and then she was just saying that like in front of everyone to make herself feel better. Like again, I'm very much a people pleaser, and I will look for the good in people. And like honestly, that situation probably was bad for everyone. And I definitely would have said things when I was younger in front of people, probably. Like, I don't know what I was acting like at that time. So you can't hold things against people that happened when you were younger. But yeah, I remember that situation. And
Sims 4.
Don't do that with your friends. Don't play Sims 4 and make each other's bodies and complain at each other, because that's not a good idea. Someone said, how do you find outfits that suit your body shape? Ooh. I think that's interesting, because I do feel like a lot of content online that's like suit your body shape just means look skinnier. Yeah. And a lot of people will be like, if you're pear-shaped, you shouldn't wear low-waisted because then your tummy will be on show. And then it's like, well, this isn't really how to make you feel confident. This is just how to look as small as possible.
I think when the advice is to how do you make yourself look thinner, like, do you remember Trini and Susanna were obsessed with don't wear horizontal stripes?
I don't know what Trini and Susanna
so this is before your time. Oh, well, you've missed a whole era of triggering TV.
Is that one word?
What not to wear.
So, what?
Trini and Susanna? Trini.
Is that one word? Is that one
person? My God, you don't know Trini and Susanna.
Who's Trini?
So Trini, what's her surname? I don't know. Trini and
Susanna.
Trini and Susanna, they were like these two
women.
Two people. Yeah, these two women who had this show, and it was called What Not to Wear, and their whole thing was basically, it was supposed to be tough love. So they would get these women in, they would rip them apart about their bodies.
Was it like Gok Wan?
A bit like Gok Wan. I think he had a similar one.
10 years younger or something.
I think Gok Wan had his own one. Then there was also 10 years younger, which, if you want to see what body positivity culture was like, well, there was no body positivity back in the day. Go watch 10 years younger. It is horrendous.
I remember watching Gok Wan, How to Look Good Naked. That was the show.
Yeah,
where
similar vibes.
I mean, I haven't watched it back, but from what I remember, it was actually quite positive.
I think that one was a bit nicer.
And at the end, they had like a photo shoot naked, and they made her feel good.
So that one was a bit nicer. And I think Trinity and Susanna, they would always say that, you know, the ultimate goal was to make the woman feel confident, but the way that they did that was basically by saying, you need to cover this part of your body. You've got saggy boobs, you've got a flat bum, you've got a big bum, you need to hide it.
Oh, it's like that.
And somehow that was supposed to be making you feel better.
There's so many questionable shows from the 2000s and like diet shows, but
what was I saying?
How like all these TikToks just a similar vibe, and how a lot of this styling content and like styling your body shape can just mean being skinny.
Yeah, so one thing that I found recently, and to be honest, I don't know whether this is just another, because I don't know whether all body types fit into this category, but have you heard of the Kibbe body type system?
Yeah,
it's like a slightly different one, where I think it is a bit more just, it's more just literally about your bone structure and like, it's not necessarily about whether you've got weight in certain areas. It's a more general body type system. But to be honest, I don't think all different body types could even fit into that system. So I don't know if there is a system that works. I think the best thing to do is if you because I think it is a genuine thing, you know, you want your clothes to fit you well, you want to feel comfortable and confident in what you're wearing, and I think just paying attention to certain things, like
What makes you feel
like
good?
me, for example, I have really long arms, and sometimes like t-shirts do not fit me properly, so I just have to pay attention to that. And that's like something that I could potentially not like about myself, the fact that my arms are like weirdly long for my body, but I've just had to, you know, learn to accept it and try and find clothes that fit me. And the same with like jeans. I find it really hard to find jeans that fit me because they're never long enough. And so there's just certain things that, you know, you can look for. And I think that's one thing of trying clothes on can be quite useful.
Yeah, I think...
And if something doesn't fit you, just return it. Just don't keep it in your wardrobe if it doesn't fit you.
Yeah, I think the main thing I've learned is just, it's trial and error, finding out what kind of silhouettes and everything that you like, and that doesn't have to go with the typical advice for your body shape. Like, if you love this certain cut of dress on you, then you know you like that, you feel confident in that, and then when you see another dress that's a similar shape, you'll know to buy it. And I think it's just learning what you like say for example with jeans, I make a lot of content online about how I like low-waisted jeans, and if you followed any sort of advice on like pear or hourglass body shape advice, they would say to not wear low-waisted jeans because that's going to make your hips look bigger. And
you've made many videos that prove that you look good in low-waisted jeans.
And the reason I like low-waisted jeans is because I do have bigger hips, and I think it like accentuates my curves and like shows off the curves rather than trying to hide them. And so many, if you just Google like what to wear if you're pear-shaped, they'll be like high-waisted jeans, because then you're covering up your big hips. But for me, when I wear high-waisted jeans, I don't feel confident. I don't think I look good personally. So just me learning, if I had just listened to all those videos and I don't know what you were saying, some TV show called
What not to wear. Trinny and Susanna.
St. Trinians.
I can't believe you have not heard of Trinny and Susanna.
But if I had just listened to all those advices, I would never have tried on a pair of low-waisted jeans and realised that I like how I look in them. And I think it's just, you need to just think more personally, like what you personally like wearing, and to not follow advice on all these random people that don't know you and haven't seen you wear a pair of jeans. And I think following people that do have a similar body type and that are very experimental in what they wear. Like, I would hope that people follow me. Maybe if you've got similar shape to me, you'll see me wearing something and know that maybe that's gonna look nice on you, and to feel inspired to wear like different things than what you're told you should be wearing. But I think it just goes back to just your personal choice. And like, for example, I have scoliosis, so my back is very uneven, so like the things I wear, I might wear things based on that. But I mean, I'm quite confident, like I don't really care if you can tell that my back's uneven. But if you have certain insecurities, you might feel more confident covering those up, and that's totally fine. Or you might learn to feel confident to not care about those things. And it really just depends on like the journey that you're on and what you feel confident wearing, because I think 99% of looks and like how you come across is actually confidence. It's not actually how you look.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in our personal style episode, but if you don't feel comfortable in something, if it's making you sit tightly or awkwardly or tensely, it's not going to look good on you. So there's no point really, like, basically the goal should just be that you feel completely yourself and comfortable, whatever that means for you, whether that's wearing the most like, you know, skin tight outfit, or if it's just wearing a hoodie and a tracksuit.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have time for. This is the end of the season. I really hope you guys enjoyed these first 12 episodes. And
we've been learning a lot about how to make a podcast as we go.
Yeah, I feel like our episodes have been getting better with time, so hopefully you enjoy them.
I feel like the first episode was probably a bit awkward and nervous.
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten used to talking to the camera now.
Well, now I just feel like I'm having a chat on the sofa. Like, I don't even notice the cameras anymore.
And next season we're going to be filming from a new background, a new sofa, so hopefully you guys love it. Make sure you stick around and make sure you're subscribed and following us to keep up to date when the next season comes out next Wednesday,
which is just
next Wednesday.
So don't worry, you won't have to wait.
You're not going to miss us, because we're going to be back here next Wednesday in a whole new setup, so we hope you really are excited for that. If you want to keep up to date with us and be involved in future episodes by asking questions, make sure you're following the podcast on Instagram at My Big Sister Podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple or Amazon, give us a follow or a review or a comment.
I read every single one of them.
On YouTube and on Spotify, we're loving all the comments. So thank you, everyone. And if you want to keep up to date with us before next Wednesday, I post every single day on my own socials.
So productive.
Yeah, at Grace Tutty if you want to follow me Anyway, you can find me. And Josie also does post, but not as often as me. But what are your accounts?
I do post occasionally. My Instagram is Josie Tutty and my TikTok is Josie Violet. I should probably figure out getting those to be the same, but you know, that's what it is for now.
Yeah.
If you just type Josie Tutty, I'll probably come up.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week
On the
for
next
a
season.
new season of my Big Sister podcast. Bye guys.